I just slipped one over. One day I had a meltdown and my kids were in the car. We were driving in Enfield, and every time I've driven in Enfield, I've gotten pulled over. And this is years ago. It's not like that now. It's a few years ago. My car wasn't bad. I had a decent car. But I remember being really tired that night and just aggravated with things in my life. And I saw the police officer. I said, why he pulls me over? The kid said, he's not mine. Oh my goodness, my kids think I'm hypersensitive. They don't really understand. My daughter, my oldest daughter, she graduated from St. Joe's. She says, Mom, there's no such thing as racist. Okay, I guess it's like Santa Claus. So, sure enough, he pulls me over. And I don't know, I had a meltdown. So the officer comes to the car and he says, ma'am, license and insurance. Why do you want to see my license and insurance? I just need to see your license. Every time I come up here, this is what I told the poor man. Every time I come up here, I get pulled over. It's not my fault that Obama is the president. Oh my God, my kids are getting up in the shot. And I'll tell you about that humble police officer. So he let me rant until I was done. And when I looked up at him, there were tears in his eyes. And I said, he said, man, I'm so sorry. He said, I pulled you over because you were driving erratically. And I was tired that night. And so, yeah, okay. So I'm almost done. So let me just kind of. You'll find it in the book. I tell a lot of stories, and the stories are what kind of give structure to the world that I'm in. And I think one of the worst times for me was when, or the worst times that racism really almost destroyed me. And it was after I had written for Northeast, so I thought it was hot stuff. You know, here I was, and Lair was like the big shot. And he was the type of leader that he told everybody, leave her alone. I know she's rough around the edges, leave her alone. She's good. Sit right there, Cindy. Right, dude, go ahead. And he let me do my thing. And I did my thing, and we had a good run. And I made friendships with people, and people knew my name. They stopped in the grocery store. There were over 300,000 people read the Sunday paper. Blair gave me my own column, and he'll never know what a shot in the arm that was. So here I was, high school diploma, you know, winning awards for journalism, and he would send me to these banquets. I never told him about the banquets. The Society for Professional Journalists. And Blair said, oh, Cindy's got to go. She's been nominated. You got to go to the banquet. I hate those banquets, Blair. You got to go to the banquet. And I go to the banquet with the Current. We're at the Current's table, and everybody's mad at me because I am a freelancer at the table with the full-timers. Well, I think I am anyway. I only have a high school diploma, and I'm not smart. Why am I here? I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Larry. And so everybody gets drunk to avoid speaking to me. Larry never told you about those times. But after it was over, when I really began to understand how the world worked, everybody kind of dispersed. Everybody who had 3 degrees or did their thing. Everybody did different things. And of course, I was ready to recreate myself. Yeah, all right. Every job that I tried to apply for, every application, I picked up the phone and I called people I knew. And yeah, I'm looking for a job there. The Northeast magazine that Larry was in charge of, yeah, it's no longer, it's disbanded now. So I needed a full-time job. Couldn't get a job. That's when I began to understand how it is in Connecticut. that it doesn't matter if you can do the job. It doesn't matter if you're good at it. I don't know what causes this, but suddenly I realized, wow, I'm unemployed. All I have is a high school diploma. I went back to school, started going to St. Joe's, did very well, and now I'm going to St. Joe's. I'm going to have my bachelor's degree. I'm going to start teaching Central University. They offered me a teaching job. So we'll help you get your master's. Yes, did very well, get the dean's list. So a week of graduation, I get a phone call to find out I'm not graduating. I'm not graduating. I've got people coming to see me. Larry said he was coming with bells on. Cindy, you're not graduating. Why am I not graduating? Well, the credits of the program that you went, they're not paid for by financial aid. They're like $20,000. Okay, so I worked at a group home full time while I was in college, and but I had bills. My kids were in college at the same time I was. I began then to realize that, wow, I'm sitting here in a pit and I can't get out of this. And what they wanted me to get, I couldn't come up with it. And so then, after almost 5 years, now it's gone on 5 years, I still have not been able to get a job. The anger, the feeling of hopelessness, the feeling, and it's not so much what happened to me from the outside, knowing that I want to be able to take care of my family, knowing that my car is repossessed, knowing that my husband is very hardworking, he needs my help, and going on 50 job interviews, and every time you're thinking, this is it, I know I'm going to get it. And you take your last $5 and you put the last $3 in the gas tank and you take 99 cents, buy 99 cent pantyhose, and you get dressed up and you do your spiel. And when they see you and they're talking to you, you know they've already decided, nah. That's where the anger comes in. Not so much from the outside, but it's how you feel about yourself. What happens to you psychologically? And let me wrap this part up. I have my faith, and that's why I'm so excited about being able to talk in this kind of environment, because you guys are people of faith. So without my faith, I would be like a blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat. Impossible to find. But my faith tells me that even though I don't see it, it's there. So everything that I do based on my faith. And so I push myself. And the amazing thing about God is that when you have faith, it's your responsibility to do something with it. God doesn't care that you haven't been employed. He wants to see your faith. So now we have a prayer group that we meet on Mondays. We've been meeting for years, a group of women. It's not a lot of us, it's maybe 7 or 8, and we meet and we get on the floor in different people's living rooms, and we kneel and we talk to God. We're loud. Sometimes we cry like babies. Sometimes when the streets are very hot in Hartford, and we know that people are dying, we know that if we don't pray, somebody's going to get shot tonight. So we cry out to God, we call names out, and we've been doing that for years. And because of that, now I become this other person so on one hand, I'm this professional who everybody thinks is so great, but I can't get a job and they don't know it yet. And on the other hand, I'm this faith person who is like Scotty. When there's a crisis, I need God to beam me up. And that means that I spend a lot of time in crisis environments. I spend a lot of time in my car. Many times we get to the scenes of crimes before the police does or before the paramedics. Just last Sunday, my husband, I was standing up teaching Sunday school, and the pastor heard some gunshots, and they went out on Blue Hills Avenue, and a young man had been shot. And so my husband and another brother, they go over and they pray. The guy, luckily this time, he only got shot in the leg, but there have been people murdered literally across the street from our church. So the juxtaposition of being so powerless on one side, yet having enough faith to keep me afloat, that even though I may not have the thing that I want, I may not have the job that I want, the material thing that I want, the college, that teaching position, I have love. And my love has transformed me, so that no matter what people do to me, they can never neutralize me, because I have love. And every time I'm reminded of my limitations and times when I find myself afraid for the future of young people, afraid for what might happen to me. On the physical end, the love of God that's inside of me, it keeps me alive. There have been so many deathbeds. I get calls all the time. And I spend a lot of time in foxhole. And for me, that means I spend a lot of time off the grid in prayer, because I never know who's going to call me. Not too long ago, one of my friends, her son, she called me. I hadn't talked to her in a while. She said, "Cindy, my son," she said, "he's in critical condition. He's at Hartford Hospital." So it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I put my jacket on, and I just go into prayer mode. And then when you have people in crisis and you're dealing with people and you're trying to pull them out of a hopeless situation, you've got people who you pulled out of drugs, and now they're frustrated because they can't take care of their families, and they're trying to go back to the thing that destroyed them in the first place. And so you get these 911 calls all the time, and you go in, you never know what you're going to find. So it's so important to know that just because the natural may not be that great, we're spiritual people, which means that there's nothing that is impossible to us. I can't tell you how many deathbeds that I've walked into, and I'll tell you one story, and then I'll stop. There's one young lady who's a beautiful young woman. She came to our church, and she had the shortest dress on. We would have been, oh my God, I hope nothing falls on the floor. She has to bend down and pick it up. And then you wonder, why are all the brothers over on the left? Everybody's over there. Oh my goodness, praise the Lord. This young lady had been molested by a very close family friend who happened to be a preacher. And so she had this way about her that was quite promiscuous, but the girl could sing. She started coming to our church, and when she would come, all the men that would show up, they were afraid to lose her. Lord, please don't touch her. Don't change her. We're going to lose a good thing. They'd come in the church and just, oh, I hope she don't go to the altar. But she did, and her life was changed. And she started to get really involved, and she used to hang out with us and started praying. She joined the choir, and the girl had such a powerful voice that we would take her with us. And we would bring her to places where people, halfway houses and rehab places where people were on drugs. And we would just give her the mic, and we would just back her up. And when she would sing, yokes would be broken. When she would sing, people would literally get delivered from habits. People would literally get delivered from things that they have been in counseling for years. She was a powerful, very humble woman. Of course, she started having that, that old-timey look that we had. And all of the men left her alone. And so she did really well. And one time we took her to a Puerto Rican church. We couldn't speak Spanish, they couldn't speak English, but we gave her the mic. And pandemonium broke loose. Everybody was dancing and happy. She had that kind of power. But something happened, and this is the struggle that I deal with. And the reason that I wrote Cinders is because of people like her. This population that if we don't get to them, they'll die. And sometimes while we're trying to get to them and we're going through red tape and we're taking so long and we've set up programs and we're doing things like that, people can't hold on. And we got a phone call. She was doing really well, and then she stopped coming to church, and then we couldn't find her. And finally we got a phone call, and the phone call was that they found her dead. She had committed suicide. And they found her stretched on the floor as though she were reaching for something, as though she had changed her mind. I was very close to her. She was close to my kids' age, my daughters, 4 daughters. And I said the one thing I could do for her, I could bring my hairdresser to do her hair. And I went to take my hairdresser to do her hair. And the amazing thing was that even in her death, the devil wanted to stand over her and claim her. So we get there with the hairdresser, and there's this woman who looks like her hair hadn't seen a comb in 20 years. She said, "This is my niece." She hadn't seen her niece. "I'm doing her hair for her funeral." And so we literally had to go back and forth because, at least in death, we wanted her beauty to be evident. So there are things like that make me understand that at the bottom of the world, there are people. They don't understand the fact that they don't have a degree. They don't understand the fact that there's no door. There's no, you don't know that there's no way in until you grow up and you find out, wow, I don't know what to do now. So you have a whole society of men who are afraid. They're afraid. They can't be a man in other places. They can only be a man on the street. And the only thing they have is your walk. The only thing they have. And so that's why I wrote Cinders. Cinders is filled with the stories of what racism does to kids. It deals with the stories of what happened to us. And some of the stories that I mentioned today are not in there, but that'll be in Cinders' sequel. And I don't know, but I think I should hire Larry as a marketing consultant. Don't you think he did a really good job?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll read one passage and then I'll open it up to Andy for questions. And Andy, I'm sorry, I know I went kind of long. You probably should have did like this to me. Oh, there it is. And thank you guys for your patience. You were just such a great audience. I'll just read this one. I hope you get the book and read it. I would love to know what you think about it. It's on page 19, and it starts, in celebration of my 18th birthday in December of 1982, that was the year I married my husband. We've been married 34 years and counting. I have not murdered him yet, which is a good thing. I've contemplated it a few times. In celebration of my 18th birthday in December 1982, Dave, my new husband, had brought me to a beefsteak Charlie's restaurant in Rocky Hill. It was a mostly white suburb just a few miles outside of Hartford. As we sat eating our steaks, I was immediately conscious that we were the only blacks in the dining room. There were just 2 of us in the entire restaurant. Across from us was another table with 4 young white men, jocks or college boys possibly. As my excited young husband had previously arranged, The restaurant staff brought out a small birthday cake to my table, clapping happily and singing happy birthday and making a spirited, good-natured ruckus. As I beamed in the flaming candlelight, the college boys at the other table decided to lend their voices to the end of my special serenade. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear nigger. Happy birthday to you, they sang. I looked into my young Connecticut-born husband's eyes and saw the pain and rage. I saw him considering whether or not to go over to the college boys' table to demand an apology. Please don't, I whispered, touching his hand. It's not worth it. Don't give them the satisfaction. So the book has little vignettes like that. One, I don't know, is, do I have time for, oh, thank you, Andy. I remember you. In the mid-1970s, Harvard had a number of notorious street gangs that ruled specific territories. Although they weren't as heavily armed and violent as the Uzi-toting street gangs of today, they were, for that era, just as feared and just as dangerous. Nobody, with the exception of the Hartford police and the FBI, dared contest them or wanted to get on their bad side, and with good reason. The Magnificent 20s, the Blackstone Rangers, the Savage Nomads, and the Ghetto Brothers were the most fearsome Hartford gangs at that time. They didn't stroll into charcoal tears. They rumbled into it like thunderclouds, igniting explosions. On the eve of one twilight, the Magnificent 20s, a notorious gang from the fierce Bellevue Square housing project, showed up suddenly in Charlotte like a swarm of bees. They wore black jackets with the number 20 emblazoned on them and were moving like a trained regiment up the sidewalk. As a number of us kids, my sister included, stood sporting around in our front yard. Here they come, someone yelled, and we turned to see the mob of black jackets that had suddenly appeared. They were beating up Lewis Hall, an easygoing young man who lived in the project with a single mother and brothers and sisters. Lewis was Miss Hall's oldest child, the same age as the boys who were knocking him about, but he was clearly no match. The 20s were bouncing Lewis around like a beach ball, tossing him back and forth between themselves, punching and kicking him in forward motion as he tried his best to cover his head and face. As the machine moved closer, I could hear my mother's voice above the fray. She was calling us inside from her upstairs surveillance window, and Robert and I readily obeyed. Once inside, we ran inside and upstairs to find Nat, who was my mom in the book, flanked by Joy and Jackie, my sisters, staring out at the terrible spectacle. It was another one of Charlie Rose's helpless moments. We all liked Lewis and felt sorry for him, but we all knew how unthinkable it was for anyone to try to intervene. And the reason I picked that particular excerpt to read from, the interesting thing is that one of the men in that, the boys in that battle that day, turned out to be the man who was my pastor now. He was one of the most feared members of the Magnificent 20s. In fact, he was on his way to murder someone when he felt himself being pulled, and he had a young man that beat up his sister, and when he got his gun, he said he did a lot of drugs and got really high so he could amp himself up. But the next thing he knew, he was climbing up some steps to the church, and he came in the church and looked at everybody and said, "I'm bad." But the church folk don't have sense enough to be scared. They said, "Oh, welcome, come and sit down." So he sat there mean and in the service like he dared anybody to say anything to him. But his high left, and he was very upset about that. He spent a lot of time getting ready. And from that day, he never left the church. And the beauty of that is that when my husband and I came stumbling into the church at 17, trying to find God, we knew we needed God. We didn't know where he was, we just knew there is a God. Could somebody help us? He and his wife became surrogate parents almost for us and stuck with us over the years and taught us how to be parents, how to be married, how to be godly. And so, in the midst of the chaos, there is always God. So, at this time, I could go on forever with these stories. I have so many of them, and it seems that it never ends. But I believe Andy wanted to come and do questions or answers, or would you like for me to hear it? Thank you so much for listening.
Cindy, thank you for sharing the stories. How many folks have read the book? Not too many. So you'll have a real joy reading if you read it. The stories that she just told, the surrogate, and actually, Tracy, we can hold the kids for one second. I just want to, one thing that I think would be really, there are some great stories, a lot of stories about Cindy growing up. What's really remarkable is that a lot of these stories, which are told really from the time you were, 5, your earliest memories until 18, and then it skips, and there's some of the things she talked about later, going back to Archie. But a lot of those stories, what comes across is really kids' voice. It's very appropriate as you go through the ages. It's really remarkable. And so we have some kids here before them because they had to go back to class. It's a shame. Were you writing back then? I know you said you had diaries. Did you use the diaries to reconstruct, to write this, or did you just remember back to it? Talk to the kids about being a writer. Some of them I'm sure have those tendencies before they leave.
Oh, that's a great question. So any writers back there, guys? Really? All right. So, what I did was, sometimes things happen to you, right? And you don't always know how to process what happens. So I just began to write things down all the time. Some things were so unspeakable, I didn't know how to tell anybody. And so I would just write them down. And many times when my classmates, when I got older and became a teenager and began to do stupid things, I could always go home and get my notebooks and pull them out from under the bed where I thought they were hidden from my mother. So I wanted you to understand that it's very important that the experiences that you go through can be life-changing for somebody else if you take out time to write them down. So what types of writing do you guys do? What types of reading do you guys do?
I write for the school newspaper.
Do you?
Yeah.
I used to do that. Cool, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So, that's a good thing also because we don't really understand sometimes what kids are thinking. If you don't write it down and educate us grown-ups, we're lost. So we need you to document. Write down how you feel. Write down the things that you feel you can't tell anyone else. I used to write so much. I had so many notebooks. And then when I began to write about my life, I realized that things happened that were happening to other people, and they really needed to read. Just like when you pick up the Torah and all of the stories about Moses and what he went through with Israel and the wilderness and all of those great stories, they're still relevant today, aren't they? That's why you're here, right? You're going back to learn about the same stories that saved the life of your ancestors. Your stories can literally save somebody else's life. Do you guys have any questions for me?
What inspired you to be a writer? What inspired you?
Well, you know what? I love to read so much, and I thought, I could do this. You ever read a really good book, like, what's the guy's name, the wizard? Harry Potter, yeah. You ever say, boy, I could come up with an adventure that Harry would never come up with? When you start to think like that, you know you're a writer. Or when you feel like, I've got to tell this, Facebook is not going to be enough, I've got to write this down. You kind of know you're a writer at that point. And then the more that you read, the more you feel you need to write. So you guys have to keep on reading, right? Yes. All righty. They've been a good captain.
So, I've got a lot of questions, but I want to open up questions. So, folks can ask questions. I'll answer first. Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of comments first, and then I have a little short story that you might be interested in. The first thing that I'm a little bit baffled about is in your opening comment, you said that you were not really a speaker. I'm a little bit baffled about how modest a speaker you think you are when you were such a fantastic speaker. The other part is, thanking, you're welcome. You deserve it. It wasn't given. It wasn't free. You earned it. The other thing is that you were thanking us for our patience during this past hour. I was a little bit baffled then too. It wasn't us who deserved the thanks. It was you. And the little short story, I don't know if you have a moment to hear this thing, but I travel. I travel the world kind of a lot. On my own, out of my own wallet, on my own credit card. And I travel to communities that are foreign to me. The little short story that I want to tell you right now is one time, one of my travels took me to the state of Louisiana. I wanted to visit Louisiana. I had never been there. I've only been there once, and I went there for 1 month to visit that state, all of that state, because I had never been, and I didn't know if I could get back anytime. So I went there to document the people, to document their ways, their life, their agriculture, their cotton, their miles of rice fields, their offshore oil, their restaurants, their museums, their capital. I visited all of it. And one day, it was a Sunday, I was in my car traveling alone. I rented a car when I flew in, and I was traveling alone, and it was a Sunday, and I was going down this little road, country road, and there was a church. And the church parking lot was full. And I don't know what time it was, but it was in the middle of the hour, okay? It wasn't for the beginning or anything. So I said, okay,